Before the event, I had a local college professor. He and I spoke for a moment, and he actually called this a white movement. And I wanted to kind of get your reaction to a Bainbridge Georgia college professor calling this a white movement.
Well, it's not a white movement. I mean, it would be the equivalent of saying America's a white country. America's not a white country. America's the melting pot. And it's just because it's misunderstood, or just because you don't have the inclusiveness that you're going to eventually have, does not mean it's just a white movement. The bottom line is it's a movement of people that understand where this country is going fiscally, where this country is going legislatively. And more often than not, that's older people in the populace. That's older people that have been voting for decades. I mean, you can also say this is an old movement. If you wanted to take that type of labeling, there weren't a whole lot of young people here today. But that does not mean that that's what this movement's about. This movement is about, like I said, taking back America. And it's not just taking back America for white people or for old people. It's for taking back America for Americans, allowing us to have fiscal responsibility and fiscal freedom, allowing us to have legislation that's in place that allows us to enjoy the freedoms that the Constitution and the laws of the land not only have been in place for decades and for centuries now, but as well that people have died for. And the people that have died for this country weren't just all white. So to say that is just a fallacy, I respectfully say.
Especially in view of the fact that the government has now taken control of college funding, which in effect takes control of all our education. Does it concern you that a college professor would be so left of left?
Well, a lot of college professors are left to left. I mean, that's one of the criticisms about the college environment. One of the things that we have to do as citizens is make sure that when our young people engage and go into the ivory tower, that they also have a sense of everyday America. You know, there's always two types of PhDs that you can get. You can get one from the ivory tower, you can get one from the School of Hard Knocks. What makes America great is that both of those individuals have an opportunity to prosper. And when you start skewing America where only the ivory tower prospers, then you take out the element of what made America great. I mean, you look back at the 50s and 60s, where did our scientists came from? They came from Harvard, but they also came from Harlem. They came from African American and historically black colleges and universities, the same way they came from Yale and Princeton. When you start allowing how we consider America's movement as a progression, as a critical mass when it comes to our government, and we start skewing it one way, we start losing the vibrancy of America. So to hear that, unfortunately, it's part of the element that you're going to find from the educational system, but it's up to us not to let it stay that far left.
What in your background triggered you to become a conservative and to be a spokesman for this movement?
I've always been a conservative. I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Born and raised Christian. My father believed in Christian education, which of course takes you out of the public school system, believed in saving, believed in sacrifice. So that's something we always grew up with. But to be able to come into the fold and be out there as an outspoken African American conservative, I had to start looking at my children. I have a 16-year-old, I have a 10-year-old, I have Neelan here now, who's 6 months old. I had to start looking at where this country is going in the current direction. What has the liberalism of America done to black America? What has the liberalism of America done to urban America and to young America over the last 50 years? Once I started looking at that, and I realized that where our strength lies is in conservative values that come across with a sense of honor, a sense of sensible debate, but also a sense of perseverance to make sure that we utilize that. Once I started seeing that, I realized there was a need for me to speak out and do as much as I can, and God's just graced me with the ability and the path to continue to get more people to talk to, more people to meet, more hands to shake, and hopefully more of an opportunity to help bring America back to where we should be as far as being the great nation throughout the world that we can be.
So do you have political aspirations? Do you want to run for public office, or are you comfortable in your role now?
I'm comfortable in my role right now. If God leads me on the path to run for office, I will do that. But the bottom line of what I'm supposed to do right now is listen to God. And if God says come to Bainbridge, Georgia and speak to the good folks here, I mean, it may sound crazy to folks, but I'm a Christian, so I feel like I was led to be here. I'm here, I'm glad to be here, and this is what I'm going to focus on on right now. No day is promised to anybody, so I'm just going to make sure I do the best I can with each and every day. And if that leads eventually to public office, if that leads to a higher role in the media, if that leads to a higher role in any type of civic movement, I'll be humbled by it, and I will try to go forward with humble servant leadership in the process.
So my understanding is you were not compensated for coming down here, is that correct?
No, they ended up we made sure we made some books available for folks, but as far as, you don't do these type of things for $5,000 and $10,000. I know some folks get the big paycheck to speak. I don't. I do this because someone's willing to hear me speak. I have a book that I would like to do more with, and more than anything else, it's really a matter of coming down and meeting people. If I could fit it into my schedule, if it makes sense, that's what I try to do. This is hardly, I've been talking to Sheila for a couple months now. This is not a money-making venture it's, if you look at it, the bang for the buck is to go to Atlanta, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's 10, 15,000 people there. If I was worried about book sales, or if I was worried about getting paid or anything along the lines, I go to Atlanta, and I've always was invited to Atlanta. I spoke in Atlanta in February. I was invited to come back today. There's Fox News there. There's going to be anywhere from 5,000 to 15,000 people there. I was invited to go up to Boston yesterday. Sarah Palin was up there. If you're trying to make money, I go to Boston, I go to Atlanta. I honored my commitment to come here, not because there's a whole lot of money to make here, it's because it's about people. If you could touch people and get everyday people involved and remind everyday people that there is something there for you, this is your America as well, and regardless of whether you see me on CNN or see me on Fox News or see me at the Republican National Convention, I can still come here too, because we're all tied together. It's one big team, it's called America, and we need to come together and make sure we move forward to save America. And when you're focused on that, that's where it boils down to, for me.
Do you think that finally maybe that the racial barrier or the black and white label that's been put on for a long time, that one, it was Obama's election, and two, that you have black people who are speaking up on issues and they're not looking at the color of skin? Do you think that's finally come to that point?
We're at that point in America, but we have to move past it so that it resonates with people, because people are very easy to judge off of what they see. It's very easy to say, there's a Tea Party movement of, now watch how these numbers go. There's a Tea Party movement that's roughly 90% white, right? Now how many African Americans, what's the percentage of African Americans in the United States? 13%? So when they talk about 8-9% of the Tea Party movement, from some of the numbers I've heard, are only African American, it gets close to what the national average is in the population as it is. Plus, when you come to a place like Bainbridge, or you go to Ocala, Florida, or other places, the minority population is not going to be the same as it is in Chicago. It's not going to be the same as it is in Los Angeles. So to try to take one set of numbers and place it to another and say, well, that defines the movement, it's racist, it's wrong. Unfortunately, because we have high unemployment, we have financial crisis, because we have the first African American president, because we have the first African American chair of the RNC, it's prevalent to us. We're making history. And some people get afraid of making history. Some people focus on the wrong things as you make history. But I do think that with us going through these times in 2009, 2010, we'll get to a point in time where race will mean more for all the right reasons. We'll be able to take pride in who we are. We'll be able to take pride in having 3 out of the last 4 secretaries of state were women. We'll get to a point in time where you can have pride in that without that being the story. We'll eventually get there when it comes to race as well, but we're going through that process as we speak.
What I've heard and what I've seen, it's totally different. Really,
thank you very much. And this is what I've experienced. I've spoken at several tea parties, and this is what I experienced. And so I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you having an open mind and just hearing it for yourself. This makes sense.